Okay, thank you. All right, so anybody that I didn't meet, I'm Bruce Wexler from Denver, Colorado. This is my wife, Jackie. I met Earl on June 9th, 1973. And how do I know that? Because it was a week before my birthday, and we were starting college together at Drake University. And it was a summer program. And so Earl went back to Kansas City to go to his high school graduation. I stayed in Des Moines. It was funny, because Earl was this black kid from Kansas City, and I was a white Jewish kid from New York by way of Miami to Chicago and now in Des Moines. And we had absolutely nothing in common, except we had everything in common. And we might not have been blood relatives, but Earl Hamilton was my brother in every single sense of that word. For 52 plus years, we argued about sports, we turned each other on to new music, we talked politics, we talked about the great things in our lives, we talked about the horrible things in our lives, but we just talked about it. And every phone call that we had ended the same way. It was always, love you, man. Didn't matter if it was me saying it or him. But every single call for 50-something years. When Earl died, the truth is, a piece of my heart and a piece of my soul went with him. I mean, there's no getting around it. Our exploits and escapades as kids, they were the stuff of legends. And I'll tell you a few. But Earl was the master of one-word answers and a lot of grunts. A lot of times you hear, yeah, no, uh-huh. Uh-huh was 2 words, so I guess, that was a little more. But when Earl got to Drake, there were 2 things that he just loved. One was he brought a trumpet, and he was really good. And he had this really nice black leather coat. And he put, leather stuff on it all the time. And he would only take it out when it was something special, like he was going on a date or he was going to a function. And back at that time, Earl had the greatest fro in the world. And I learned about how to help him pick it out. And we were roommates for 3 years in college, and so we saw each other's good points, we saw each other's bad points, and despite that we stayed friends. And it was kind of cool. Earl, he really liked to draw, and he was really, really good at it. He just didn't want anybody to know about it. And when we were in school, he'd draw it, I'd see it in the room and stuff. But he always asked me not to tell other people about it. And then recently, maybe over the last year or so, he started making it a little more public because he would do some sketches and he was putting them on Facebook and, stuff like that. So people could see him. He was really, really good. Earl and I agreed about a lot of stuff. One of the things that we agreed on was that Wilt Chamberlain was the greatest basketball player in the history of the league, bar none. Michael, Kobe, LeBron, please. We also agreed that Marvin Gaye and Frank Sinatra were the 2 greatest male vocalists of the 20th century. And I mean, it was hilarious because when we met, I had no clue he liked Sinatra and he had no clue I liked Marvin. And so it kind of worked out. The other thing we agreed on, Earl really liked funk music. And we both agreed that it was Sly Stone, Sylvester Stone, from Sly and the Family Stone, who was really the godfather of funk. It wasn't George Clinton, it wasn't Bootsy, it was Sly. And that was it. And then during the 1973 World Series, we were living in the dorms. And the New York Mets were playing the Oakland A's in a series. And the guy playing center field for the Mets was Willie Mays. And if you haven't heard of Willie Mays, he was one of the 3, 4, 5 greatest baseball players ever. If you were going to start a team, starting your team with Willie Mays would be a really good idea. And he was incredibly famous at the time. And so we're watching a game, and I said, hey, Willie Mays is coming up. And only Earl could say this. Willie Mays? I thought he was dead. It was hilarious. And then, Earl was quiet and would keep stuff to himself. And he always tried not to laugh. And I would say stuff to try to make him laugh. And usually the best I would get at him before he would bust up, he'd look at me and go, that was trite, Wexler. Trite, but cute. and that's who, that's kind of who he was. We had a lot of crazy stuff go on. One time, a freshman or sophomore year, we had the Jewish holidays come usually September and October. And the second of those holidays, Yom Kippur, we're supposed to fast for 24 hours. And so they had a Jewish student's house on campus. And Earl and I and another guy went there for dinner to break the fast. So now Earl's got this big ass fro. And so what I did was I went and I found a yarmulke, one of the skull caps. And I got some safety pins, bobby pins, and we pinned it onto Earl's head. And so we went there, because it was free food, we didn't have any money, we wanted to eat. And I said, come on, let's go. So we got there, and Earl was like, okay, what do I do? What do I say? And I said, you tell people you are Sephardic, like black Jews from Ethiopia, and just walk around and just say shalom, man, and you're good. And so that's what happened all night, and we ate like pigs, and then went back to the dorm.